Hello and welcome back to this channel. My name is Sarah. Today I would like to calmly get back into sewing with a sewing vlog. I thought it would be fun to show you the creation of a project from beginning to end. I am slowly getting back into sewing after my wedding and traveling to the south of France with my family, and then also finishing my wedding dress, which was a huge project. And I did anticipate feeling tired and a little bit sad and not wanting to sew for a few weeks, but I don't think I measured correctly how big those emotions would be. So I have been taking some time off from my creative projects and just trying to ride this wave of melancholy, knowing that it will come to an end and that it's normal for after such a huge event. It was big and it was beautiful and everything I wanted it to be, and I was surrounded by love and happiness, and I think a bit of sadness after that is normal. I even felt a little bit repelled by my sewing corner for a little while, I think because I spent so much time in it doing my wedding dress. It was on my mind and in my hands every day, late at night. It was my companion for the last few months, and now that it's over, I miss it. I feel sad that that project is over. I didn't understand what an emotional investment it would be to make my own wedding dress. It's now at the cleaners, and I think that having it out of the house is helping me move on to other projects. But yeah, I do feel kind of sad about that. It's kind of strange, but I did clean up my sewing corner after, and I am ready now to get onto other projects. And luckily, spring and summer are my favorite seasons for wearing clothes and making clothes, and so I have lots of ideas in mind. Just no motivation to sew. So I thought I would start with a relatively easy project that's been on my mind for a long time, and it is a skirt with this really beautiful viscose crepe that I found in London at Rainbow Fabrics when I went back in April. It is this very light, very slinky fabric that is also opaque. And I love that this black and white polka dot isn't too large and in your face. I like that the polka dots are also different sizes and not all uniform sizes. I think that's pretty cool. And I have 2 meters. I had a really hard time figuring out which skirt I wanted to make. So this was largely inspired by Signe over at the Useless Instagram and YouTube channel. She is a minimalist fashion YouTuber, and she does sew a little bit, but it's mostly purchased clothes. And I like following her. We don't have exactly the same style, but she does talk a lot about choosing color and style with intention, and sometimes she features staples in her wardrobe that really inspire me. And she has this black and white polka dot skirt that she's been wearing for years and that she posts often, and every time I see it I think, oh, I really want to make that skirt. And so I will link her channel below so that you can go check her out as well. But yeah, this skirt is largely inspired by her, and I've been meaning to make it for a long time. So I had a really hard time figuring out which pattern I wanted to use. I had in mind 3 different patterns. So it was between the Helen's Closet Donovan skirt, which I have made multiple times and that I love wearing in the summertime. I have one which is this yellow vintage tile print viscose from Fabric Godmother that I wear almost continually in the summertime. And it's really comfortable. It has a wide elasticated waist and pockets and side slits, and it's this square sort of rectangular shape, but it's not too formal or informal. I like wearing it to work or on the weekends, and I really love it. But I thought that it would be maybe a little bit too informal for this fabric. I do want it to be a little bit more of a streamlined shape and not so gathered at the waist. So then I was looking at the Seamwork Desi skirt, which is a bias cut skirt with elasticated waist as well, and it has a little bit of a flare at the hem, which flutters around the knees really prettily when you walk. And I have made this before in a viscose as well, but I don't reach for it very often, and I think it's because it's a little bit more, it's not form-fitting, but because it's cut on the bias, it's form-revealing. It kind of clings to the hips and the bum, and I'm not always in the mood to show off my hips and bum, and so I don't reach for it very often. And I thought, you know what, if I'm going to make this skirt, I want it to be something that I reach for often, and that is a staple in my wardrobe. And in the end, I decided to make the Seamwork Pauline skirt. I will be making the size 00 graded to a size 2 because my waist and hip are 2 sizes apart in Seamwork sizes. I've already cut and pasted the pattern pieces together, the PDF pattern, and I've already graded from the waist to the hips, which I'll show you here. It's pretty simple. You just take a curved ruler and grade between the 2 sizes you need and try and make the grading as smooth as possible. I do need to reduce the length a little bit. So the pattern is created for a person who is 5'8" tall, and I am 5'5". So I will be removing about 3 inches from the length. I think this pattern is intriguing in that it is more of a straight shape, but it does have that interesting front side slit up to the knee, which is aligned with, I think, the right leg. And I thought that was interesting and I want to try it. I definitely want to make sure that the slit doesn't open up too far up because I don't want it to be a thigh slit, but more of a just above the knee slit. The only 2 issues that I think I might run into are the waistband. The waistband is not elasticated like the other 2 patterns I was considering, but it has a side zip with an invisible zipper, and the waistband is very thin. It is, I think, about 1.5 centimeters wide, and I'm thinking that might cause some discomfort because I do kind of prefer when waistbands are a little bit larger because I feel like the tension at the waist, especially when it's supposed to be fitted at the waist, is better distributed over a wide waistband, and because it's going to be so small, it might feel kind of like a point squeezing at my waist, and I don't like being squeezed at all around my belly. But I'll see. It might be fine. It might not be too fitted. And the only other thing is that this fabric looks like it frays quite a lot. So I'm a little bit worried about the seam finishing. I think it's going to be really delicate under the machine. This fabric is very, very shifty. As you can see, it's almost like water. I think that's going to add a level of difficulty to it. It's a skirt, it's not a dress, so I have enough space to lay it out and make sure that it's flat while I'm cutting it. So it'll be okay. I have all of my materials with me. I have my invisible zipper here. I have matching thread, and I have some lightweight interfacing for the waistband to reinforce the waistband. So yeah, I am all set. I'm just going to trace my pattern with very, very light fabrics like this. I much prefer working with tracing paper so that I can pin it without it shifting too much. Computer paper is very thick, and so sometimes the fabric will move underneath it and you can't feel it with the needle. So very technical. It adds a lot of time, but I am a slow sewist and I am going to take my time with this one. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I'm gonna get started. So I have finished cutting out all of the pieces in the fashion fabric, and this fabric is actually a bit more delicate and it moves a bit more than I thought. And so I did mark where the pattern piece has marks with tailor's chalk, but I think it's going to rub off pretty easily with this fabric, and so I'm going to go in and do some thread marks. And then I need to cut out my interfacing and interface the waistband pieces. So these pieces, these really small pieces. And then because this fabric is so delicate, and I saw this on the Seamwork channel on Instagram recently for how to work with delicate fabrics, I highly recommend checking out that channel or Instagram account because they have a lot of great tips for beginners to advanced sewists. And this is a Seamwork pattern, so that's pretty appropriate. But Sarah recommended to interface along the side where the zipper is going to go so that it doesn't buckle in light fabrics, and I think that that's definitely a possibility with this fabric. And so I'm going to interface just down to where the zipper is going to end so that when I install the zipper, it's not going to buckle. And then I need to do some stay stitchings to make sure that none of these pieces move. So I cut it out last night. As you can see, I've kept it flat and attached to the pattern so that it doesn't move. This fabric is very likely to relax once it's been cut, and so yeah, I need to stay stitch that immediately and yeah, then start sewing. So I have finished interfacing and stay stitching all of the pieces I needed to. I made a slight mistake, and there are 4 waistband pieces, 2 inner pieces and 2 outer pieces, and I interfaced all 4 of them instead of 2 of them because usually you're only supposed to interface the 2 inner pieces. But that's okay. I think that this fabric is so delicate that it's actually going to help reinforce the waistband and it's not going to create too much bulk. So that's okay. So now I need to move on to the darts. There are 5 total, which is a lot for a skirt, but interesting in design. I think what I am a little bit worried about is the seam finishes. So a lot of these seams need to be finished separately, so not together. So I can't do French seams. And so I am thinking of, instead of zigzagging or full overlocking the edges, just turning it under and stitching, because that also works for delicate fabrics and it won't pull the fabric around, because already just from stay stitching I noticed that even with the right tension and the right needle, my machine is slightly, there's a little bit too much tension along the seam line in that the fabric is sort of gathering at the seam or at the stitching line. As long as I go slowly, it doesn't happen, so I'll just have to sew slowly, but I know that any kind of zigzag stitch is just gonna bunch it up and create a mess with this kind of fabric. So yeah, stitching under it will be, and I'm gonna get to it. So I have finished the skirt. I wanted to show you the details before I put it on because I did make a few decisions and I forgot to talk about them while I was doing it. But so I decided to finish the bottom edge of the inner waistband with this bias binding. It's this dark purple bias binding out of viscose that I made a while ago out of scraps. And so I finished the entire bottom edge of that inner waistband that way, and I think it looks pretty clean that way. And it's not attached, so I didn't. Sometimes you stitch in the ditch here to attach the inner waistband to the outer one, but instead of doing that, I just fixed it down with a few hand stitches here at points where it won't be seen from the outside, like at the darts or at the side seams, and I think that'll work just fine. And then I also did the tiniest rolled hem possible, because in the end I think taking off 3 inches was a little bit too much and it didn't leave me very much room for the hem, because any shorter and I think it would have been too short for me because I wanted it to come just below my knees. And with this teeny tiny rolled hem, which I probably would have done anyway, but I would have liked to have a little bit more margin to work with. So with this teeny tiny rolled hem, it arrives just below my knee and it's exactly the length that I wanted, so I'm pretty happy with that. So let me put it on and show you. Okay, so now I have it on and I'm wearing it with the Ogden cami that I made out of this black viscose. And now that I see it next to this black color, I realize that the background color of this fabric is a little bit more dark gray than black, and I think because it's not entirely matte, it has a bit of a sheen to it. But I think that's okay. I think it goes well with this and it'll go well with a lot of other colors as well. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I did make a bit of a mistake, which you might have already seen, is that the slit is on the right side instead of the left side, and the zipper is also on the right side instead of the left side like it was originally designed, because I accidentally cut out the front 2 pieces on the right side of the fabric rather than turning it around to the wrong side, and because it's only cut once that does make a difference. But I think it's fine. I think it looks fine on the right side, and it's a little bit weird to have the zipper on the right side because typically it's on the left, but it's no big deal. I think it looks fine. I noticed that the side seams are set back a little bit, and I think that creates a really lovely smooth silhouette, which is a detail that I really appreciate and I didn't anticipate. I think that the waistband is not too tiny like I thought it was going to be. It was definitely very fiddly and hard to work with because the pieces were very thin, but I think it looks okay. I think that in the end, this was not the easiest project to get back into sewing with, but it was a satisfying project, as in, I think that I'm going to wear this all the time. And this fabric, again, was very hard to work with, especially because it doesn't press very well, but because of that, it also doesn't wrinkle very much. So I can bunch it up, stick it in a suitcase, bring it with me for a work trip or on holiday, and it's not going to need much of a press afterwards. Also, it's viscose and not polyester, so it won't create static cling while I'm wearing it, which is also fantastic. And I think that this pattern, or this motif in color, will go with a lot of the tops and cardigans that I have in my wardrobe and be very versatile in my wardrobe. So yeah, very satisfying sew indeed. And I have many ideas now. My sewing motivation has been relaunched, and I have many projects that I'd like to bring to you very soon. I also have hours and hours of footage of making my wedding dress that I need to start editing, and I've been putting it off a little bit because it's very daunting, but I do want to get that out to you and show you exactly how I made my wedding dress, because the process was, I think, very interesting, and hopefully I'll have that ready for you soon. I hope that your late spring, early summer is going well, that you have lots of interesting projects to get to, and I will see you again here soon.